From Waco, Mike asked. It's kind of a long story, but when we went to get you, we camped where you had cached your barrels. A bunch of bikers had moved into the house on the west side of the woods. You mean the gray-colored ranch-style house? Yes. We were in the woods when they came home with a young woman they had kidnapped. We went in to save her and ended up killing all of the MZBs in a fight before. That's where I got shot in the leg. Since there was no way... Did you say MZBs? Mike asked. Yeah. It stands for Mutant Zombie Biker. I see. Mark thought his brother would be amused at the acronym, but he didn't even crack a smile. Mark continued his story. Anyway, since there was no way to involve the local police without it probably complicating our lives considerably, we took the bikes, the blazer, and a bunch of stuff they had obviously stolen. It's a little hypocritical, don't you think? Mike asked sarcastically. What do you mean? Well, Mike explained, last night you were quite holier than thou when Jeff said something about going through an abandoned house and looking for food for his kids. Now I find out that you took a bunch of stuff that you really didn't even need from a house where you killed all the occupants. I would say that's being hypocritical. This was different. Everything we took had obviously been stolen, and there was no chance for the rightful owners to get it back. Mark was a little defensive. Do you know that for a fact? Maybe some of the bikers lived there. Maybe some of that stuff was really his. You really don't know for sure, do you? Mark shot the questions rapid fire. No, but nothing, the older brother snapped back. Then his tone softened. Listen, Mark, that house belonged to Patrick and Maggie Fielding, an old retired couple. The closest thing to a motorcycle I ever saw Patrick on was a riding lawnmower. We tried to get him to come with us, but they wouldn't budge. Said they had lived there for 30 years and they were not moving away for a little blackout. God only knows what happened to them. Hopefully one of their kids came and got them. I have no doubt that all the stuff you took was stolen and that the MZBs, as you call them, got what was coming to them. In fact, they were probably some of the same bikers that burned down our houses. The point I'm trying to make is that you did what you thought was best at the time. That's what Jeff did. It's easy to judge right and wrong when you're not standing in the shoes of the person who's in this situation. Just remember that, bro. You're right, Mike. I'll apologize to Jeff. He was quiet for a moment. You really think they could have been the same guys that attacked you? Possible. When we ran them off the first time, they had at least a few bikes I heard them ride off on. When they came back, they must have parked a ways off because I didn't hear any cars or bikes. I just happened to be going back to the house for some stuff when I saw them. Luckily, they never saw me. There was too many of them for us to fight. They shot at the house, and when no one shot back, I guess they figured out we had left. One of them had a jug of gas that he spilt between Dad's house and mine. Then they put a road flare into each house. The houses went up quick. When they were fully engulfed, they left. It must have been hard not to shoot them. It was, but there was no way to get all of them, and what good would that have done us? I'd have been dead and the houses still would have been destroyed. You're right again, big bro. Mark threw his arm around Mike's shoulders like he was going to hug him. Have I told you how happy I am to have you here? About 100 times. Yeah, but not officially. Mark swiftly turned the sideways hug into a headlock and rubbed his knuckles on his brother's scalp. The two scuffled briefly, as they had 1,000 times before. Mike quickly accepted the inevitable and let his brother perform the ritual that had been shared by brothers for generations. Once he quit struggling, the fun was quickly gone and Mark stopped. Why don't you show me around? Mike more insisted than asked. You got it. Mark spent the next few hours showing Mike around and introducing him to many of the Silver Hills residents. Before dark, they saw Gunny and Rob walking toward the command post. So did you get to look at the hill? Mark asked. Yep, the old Marine answered. We found the camp's site the others were staying at too. It was right at the bottom of the hill in some heavy brush. It didn't look like they were there too long. How could you tell? They had some wood stacked up for a fire but never lit it. They was probably waiting for dark. Also, the grass on top of the hill was matted down where the observer was watching from and where they had walked up the hill from the campsite, but the grass wasn't dead like it would have been if they'd have been watching it for several days. Any clue as to where they came from? Not a one, Karate Man. They didn't leave nothing behind. Hopefully that is because they weren't there long and not because they were well trained. I hope so too, Gunny, Mark said. Then he shifted his attention to Rob. You need a ride home? No, Dr. Ken is still here and he said he'd give me a ride. I'm going to the clinic to find him. I'll see you in the morning, though. Good, Mark said as he shook Rob's hand. Thanks for all your help. Rob nodded and then headed to the clinic while the other three men walked home. Mark wanted to get a good night's rest. It was going to be a long, hard week.